Alrighty, everybody, the Lord of the Rings spin-off film, The Hunt for Gollum. We're not talking about the Rings of Power here, we're talking about the new feature film that I think is going to be directed, if not directed, produced and written by Peter Jackson, who did, of course, the original 3 Lord of the Rings films, some of the greatest movies of all time, as well as the Hobbit films, which a lot of people dislike, and I get it. It definitely did not need to be 3 movies, that's for sure. But I personally get a lot of enjoyment out of those 3 Hobbit films. Maybe that's a hot take. I've done a couple videos about that on the channel, but anyways, I digress. We're going to talk about the, I think, 2026 film, or 2027 film. It's coming out in the next couple of years, The Hunt for Gollum. Now, very little is known about this, and actually, now that I say this, the film is going to be executive produced by Peter Jackson, but it's going to be directed by none other than Gollum himself, Andy Serkis, and obviously starring Andy Serkis himself. We've gotten hints and basic confirmations, essentially confirmations from Ian McKellen in the past, saying that Gandalf might be appearing. Who knows. And now it looks like we have official confirmation, which is interesting, right? Because we don't know much about the story of this movie at all, but given who's in the movie, I think we have a pretty good idea now of where this movie is going to take place and what's going to happen in it. I think, at least. So let's dive into this here. Ian McKellen was doing, I think he was at some kind of fan expo, and he had this to say about The Hunt for Gollum. He said, quote, "I hear there's going to be another movie based in Middle-earth, and it's going to start filming in May, so that's exciting. It's going to be directed by Gollum, and it's all about Gollum. Gollum obviously being Andy Serkis." And then he had this to say. This is obviously the really interesting part. Quote, "I'll tell you 2 secrets about the casting. There's a character in the movie called Frodo, and there's a character in the movie called Gandalf." So that's obviously the bombshell. And of course it had to be some kind of choreographed announcement, right? That if he says it like that, it's, maybe he's just leaking information, maybe he doesn't care, he's in his mid-80s, he's filming Avengers Doomsday. He's kind of, again, not to be morbid, but sort of the last hurrah for Ian McKellen in the comic book and pop culture movie space, and he's coming back as Gandalf, he's coming back as Magneto, all exciting stuff. And so maybe it was just a leak, but I have to imagine that it was somehow choreographed, that he was going to say it at that point in time he was going to announce it. So here's the thing about this, right? I mean, first of all, great, Frodo and Gandalf are going to be in this movie, because I think based on everything we've heard, obviously, unless Lord of the Rings decides to do something crazy, it's not going to take place post Return of the Jedi, Return of the King, because Gollum is dead. Spoiler alert for a movie and a book franchise that is decades old at this point. Gollum is dead. So this is going to be a prequel, right? We know that. And The Hunt for Gollum, there's a very particular space in these movies where this should probably take place. It's the point in time when Gandalf leaves the Shire at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring. He goes out looking for Gollum. He finds him, and that's really what kickstarts the entire sequence of events in the Lord of the Rings, is that he finds Gollum and kind of interrogates him, right? And so that is presumably what this story is going to be, that little time period at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring. And so it makes sense, right? It makes sense that Gandalf is probably going to be in this movie. Not only in this movie, one would have to imagine he's going to be a main character in the movie. Again, not to say that Ian McKellen can't do that, and of course there's de-aging technology, and I'm not just saying that because Ian McKellen's 86. I mean, they de-aged Alfred Molina to play Doc Ock, and obviously that's to make him look more in line with his appearance in Spider-Man 2, but of course it's the same thing here with Ian McKellen as Gandalf, so that's all well and good. Now to get to the Frodo part, right, what would Frodo be doing in this movie? Well, you have to remember, and this is my suspicion as of now, nobody's confirmed this as of yet, but Elijah Wood, right? I mean, one could have said the same thing when talking about The Hobbit, right? If, for example, Martin Freeman, who plays Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit, could have gotten on stage when they were making those movies, when they were about to film those movies, and said, "Oh, I have a secret to tell you guys. There's a little character in this movie called Frodo." And he could have left it there, and people would have been like, what? What does that mean? Turns out all that would have meant, for those of you who have seen The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, for what that would have meant, essentially, is a cameo at the beginning of the movie to set up the framing device of how Bilbo is telling the story. They got Ian Holm back as well to, again, set up the story at the very beginning, and Elijah Wood shows up. That's all it meant, and that's fine. So maybe they're just going to bring back Elijah Wood to recreate the framing device of this story, where Gandalf, leaves the Shire, says goodbye to Frodo, and then goes off on his adventure, which is the entire movie. And then he comes back to Frodo, and he's like, "You got to go, you got to leave. The Nazgul are coming after you." That's my guess at this point. I can't imagine Frodo has any part to play substantively in this movie, just because of the fact that if this movie is where we think it is in terms of the timeline, then it's just going to be. I mean, Frodo can't be involved. He's going to be in the Shire the whole time. And we know what Frodo's doing the entirety of the time that they're hunting for Gollum. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting that he's like, yep, Frodo's coming back. I would imagine it's another little cameo that Elijah Wood is going to be making, and that's fine. It's great. I don't know why we needed to announce that here, but maybe get some excitement going around the movie. I don't know. It's fine. I'm excited about that, and I think Gandalf coming back in the movie makes a lot of sense as well. So, guys, what do you think of the confirmation that Gandalf and Frodo, Ian McKellen, and presumably Elijah Wood are coming back for The Hunt for Gollum, directed by Andy Serkis and produced by Peter Jackson? Let me know in the comments down below.